Okay, we are back. We need to add some functionality to our this system, right? So we want to be able to interact with our inventory so that we can build things out here, or drop things, or use items, and so forth. So the first thing we need to do is build the core basics of what the interaction is. And the easy way to do that, I find, is I'm going to grab a slot, stick it under canvas so it's at the bottom. You always want this one right at the bottom. And I'm going to unprefab him, call him fake, and deactivate him. I am going to come over here and do a interaction FSM. So in the interaction FSM, I am going to create a get mouse button down, which is left click, and over here I am going to get a mouse button up, and we'll call this one drop. So there's drop events and stuff, and you would use those if you want to physically grab a slot and drag it around and drop it on something. Some systems use that. It makes things extremely complex, because when you take something out, due to things like this, which is why I put this one on the bottom. If you put this one on the top, and let's give it some width and some height, right? And if I move this thing around, it's behind everything. Okay, so it needs to be down here, so it's in front of everything. So the problem when you have a bunch of slots and you want to go drag something, this thing's normally sitting in here, right? So first of all, this guy has a grid layout group, so you have to unparent it from there, and you got to stick it somewhere. But you got to make sure to make it's the last child, and then when you put it back in, it goes back in. And then you have issues such as, because it's a grid layout group, all the slots, everything behind it moves up one. You're playing with raycast art. It's a pain in the ass. Let's just put it that way. This system is so much simpler. We have a fake slot and we have these slots. So all I'm going to do is we have here an interaction, and we need a slot ID, and it's an integer. And I'm going to come into here and I'm going to make another FSM on the slots themselves and give it 2 events with a on pointer enter. Actually, I think that's probably all I need. We might have to add something to that after. So we need to get the root, and here we are going to set FSM int of the root interaction, and the variable will be slot ID, and The ID we need to get, we need to know where this guy is. So we need to get FSM array, and we need array contains, and we need to get the array on the root, we need to get from populate slots, I'm just going to copy that, the current slots. So we're going to get populate slots, current slots. We need a place to store that. And then it's just a copy value. We need to current slots contains. So we need our owner. And then this will give us an index. And that's what we're going to send up here. So now, to show you what that does, we have a slot ID. Let's put it over here so we can see it. So watch down there. So now, if I go here, let's scroll down, we can see that slot ID is changing. So we know where we are slot-wise, mousing over stuff. So now that we know where we are, if we left click, let's do another int called current slot ID. I'll take this one off of there. So if we left click, we need to set int value current slot ID is going to be slot ID. Now, if I drop something, then we need another one, which is going to be destination ID. So set int value, destination ID will be current or slot ID. So the current slot ID will be slot ID and the destination ID will be slot ID. Right, so if I now, okay, well, let's put these over here so you can see them as we move around again. So if we hit play, and I bring that up and I go down here. Now if so our slot ID is changing, right? Nothing's changing, and if I click, our current slot ID is now 9. So we're coming from the 9. And say I go over here, we'll get, well, not 0, let's go to the 1. And I let go. I now know we started at 9 and we ended at 1. So that's where the magic will happen. Also, in between here, we need to activate the fake slot and make it look like the slot we're clicking on, but we'll do that after. So we've clicked, we set the value, and we come up here, and we have the destination. So After we have those two values, okay, so we've clicked, we get our starting, we unclick, we get our ending. We need to get the array list. Array list get of player. So okay, well, we need to get the player. Do I use him as a variable in this one, or is he just a thing? No, he is a variable. Okay, so let's reuse the variable then. So let's over here get FSM game object, and I need to actually click on it. Of, I'll say populate slots. Nope. Control. Master. Lower tundra crafting. There we go. Alright, so we'll just grab the player. Okay, so of the player, the ID that we need is going to be the names. So that's an ID, the current slot ID. So whatever we're getting here, and that's a type string, and the result is the starting item, and then we can duplicate this, and we need to get the destination and the ending item. So now that we have those, we need to compare those. All right, because if string compare. Okay, so if starting item and end item are equal, then we can stack them. And if they are not equal, then we need to do something else. So if they're not equal, then we need to check if the ending item is compared to that, like nothing, then it is empty. If it's not equal, then this can just go away. So if we go away, let's just go back up here and wait for something else to happen. But if it's empty, then we can do something else. So let's start with empty. So if it's empty, then we need to set FSM, set array we also need to move the quantity, but first we'll deal with this. So the names, copy, reference there, at index, destination ID, type string is starting item. So starting item is now the end item. And copy and paste inventory names at the starting point type string can now be empty. So the other thing we should probably do is get the quantity at index. Current slot ID is fine. Type integer. Starting quantity. And now that we've gotten that, we need two of these. Paste and paste. So inventory quantity, copy and paste. Paste. So the current slot ID type integer can now be 0, and the destination, which is an integer, can now be starting quantity. And then let's just finish that and go back up here and wait for the next command. So if we pick something up and we look at what we have, and I open this up, I can click. Now it's not actually going to physically move, and I drop it. See what's happening. Okay, we're at slot ID 0, we're at 1, destination 1. What's happening in this world? They are the same. So, okay, well, let's for now put him over here so he's not screwing us up. He's messing with the test. So if we now come over here, oh, why do we have a okay. So we don't have these indexes, right? References don't match. So the names, string, starting item would at index. So these need to be, well, let's just copy this stuff. The end index is 23, because I think we said we'll have 24. So let's actually populate these so that they're a little bigger than nothing. And that's totally not the right one I meant to do. I mean, it's fine, it's there. It's pre-filled count, 24, save. 24, save. And where's the last one? 24, save. There, now we actually have the slots to do that with. Okay, so let's pick something up. And pick up the wood because it's a way better symbol. Uh-oh. Okay, well, that's going to cause us issues now, isn't it? So when we populate, we iterate, we get those. Compare the quantities, and if it's empty, we create a slot, we add it there. Yeah, because we had that issue right in the start, if I remember right. Because if we went with 1, and it was wood, and we hit play, we get that. And it's an index of 1. But if this is a pre-fill count of 24, I don't know, that worked fine that time. That's weird. Okay, so if we're over here and we click, and we drag, and we let go, and we go down to the player, nothing had happened. So let's see why. So we see wood, and we see nothing. So they are not equal. It should say next. And if it's empty, at index. Alright, where's our little player here? Let's turn those on. So here we click, and we get a destination 23 of, oh, well, there we go. So here we have the array list set. This is me not paying attention. Make sure that's the right thing for all of them. Alright. Guess it helps when you choose the right items that we're actually playing with. So we open that up, we come over here, we drag it over here, we let go. So this guy, he cleared. There we go. Let's move him like that so we can actually see. So number 10 is now 5. I don't know why we have stone all of a sudden way down there. But the wood did move, right? So that's where we wanted it to. The wood moved to quantity of 5 at 10. So that all moved. So everything actually worked just as it was intended to work. So I'm not too sure why the stone was at the end unless we were click happy, which is more than possible. Right, so let's open this up, go live. Ow. So when we're adding things, that's where our issue was before. We'll have to fix that because it's adding it to the end of the array. It's adding it down here. We don't want it to do that, right? So if I click and drag, I mean the icon's not changing yet. We haven't done that part, but we can move that around, right? And this guy's doing the same thing. Oh God, where is he? He's on 4. Yeah, so I'm moving the values around just by clicking and dragging. Okay, so the idea of the item pickup, we need to make sure that one's actually going good. So these things, let's open up the prefab. Then you go to inventory, add item on the player. If we add item, we get all that data. We check to see if it's there. And if we don't have one, so we're doing an array list add. We're going to have to change that. We don't want to add. Right? What we want to do instead of adding, because if we add, we're adding to the end. We don't want to do that. We have all these things filled. We want to set a value. So we need to now iterate or loop, right? So if we don't have an item, we want to array list get next of the owner, the names, that, and we're just going to loop, and it is type string, current slot, sure. Okay, so as we loop through, let's put our loop thing on. If we don't have something, all we want is that very first, slot, current slot, that is equal to that thing. Technically, and then on the done, if it actually ever hits done, then that's a whole nother thing, because then your inventory doesn't have the space. But that's something we'll have to deal with later on. So the current index is index to add. So if we are actually, if we found nothing, we don't want to array list add. We want to array list set. Move that to the top. So the same thing as quantity can go there. At index to add. The quantity is an integer. Incoming quantity. Okay, so that one's done. Let's get rid of him. And we want 2 more of these. So we also have the icon. And obviously that same index to add. This is a type sprite or object. Object type is Unity Engine Sprite. And the variable is the incoming sprite. So now we can get rid of him. And then the array list names. So we have quantity and quantity. We don't need 2 quantities. So this one's string, incoming name, array list add. So in the end, you should have 3. Array list set the icon, array list set the names, array list set the quantity. Right, so that's that'll make it so now when you pick things up, okay, it did stone there, stone, and then wood. Aren't you picking up wood now? All right, so over these guys, and I guess that logic is on the player. Okay, and if we have one, we array list get quantity. We contains, and we just array list get. We add and we set and we destroy. That one should be fine. So here, oh, whoops. Yeah, so next is here, add, and we actually want to add it. There, that should probably make a big difference. So we've picked up wood, we've picked up stone, and they're going in the proper spots now. And we add in something, it's just adding into those values. So everything's good. And if I drag this over here, click on the live, expand, see, like those things actually move. So everything there is functioning. So the other thing we need to do is, if we can move things, we also want, obviously, the icons to change over, right? It'd be kind of weird if we just moved the names and the string and didn't do the icon. So I think one of the easiest ways to do that one is to create more or less a function, like a multi-purpose function, that where you tell the system to update. And then that way we can use it with various functions, right? All we have to do is call update, right? So for example, we say update lists. So I think the first thing we should probably also do though is here we do names. Okay, so next go away empty. We get quantity and names. Let's also move those sprites. So we need copy, paste before. The icon. Right, so now we have array list inventory icon at current slot ID, which is a type object, which is a type Unity engine sprite, and let's store that as starting sprite. And we need to set array list set move him to the bottom of the player inventory icons. We need to set the current slot ID type object type Unity engine sprite to null, or if we have that a default value. Forget what our default value was. I thought it was a check mark. I don't see it. Alright, well, I'm going to use that since I can't find our check mark. But you would just use your whatever you want your base slot to look like if it had no item, right? Like probably a lot better of an icon than that. And then we want to copy that, paste that at the destination ID needs to be the starting sprite. Okay, so now the sprite's going to move with everything. So now we update. So if we update, all we have to do is array list get next. So on the player, okay, well, let's move this over here away from the start. So get FSM game object of crafting player so of the player now. So all we're going to do is run through all of the slots themselves, which is going to be from these guys, current slots, that array. So that array which actually isn't on the player. is a get FSM array under populate slots, current slots. We need a variable array current slots. It's a type game object. So we get FSM array. We finish. This is what we'll call when we want this to happen. So array get next. So for each of those slots, we have the current index, and it's important. Ooh, no, we want to do this through the player, because that's what we're actually updating is those. I mean, we still need to get that, but we don't want to copy the values. So we want to, yeah, okay, let's do an array list get next. So array list of the player reference names and we have a loop and a finish or done for what I like to do, and this one is a type string result current name. Alright, so if we loop and we're done, and whoop, whoop, and there we go. So more or less all we're going to say is when we do update, we're going to run through this list, and if array list get, or no, we don't need array list get, we have this. So if the current name is compared to this, if that's equal, it is empty. If it's not equal, it has an item. So if it's empty, so you know, there's a part of me that almost just wants to reuse this system though. This populate and destroy. Right, like if you were to, let's just see if that even works. Okay, so if you were to, after this thing's going back, send event. So I mean, like we kind of already have an updating system. Destroy next frame. This might save us a whole whack of trouble. Populate. All right, let's see if that works. All right, so we picked up a couple things. We move. Oh, it does. I mean, you get that kind of bit of a flash, but I mean, it works. But I mean, like, I was sitting there building that the other portion, and that's pretty much almost what I was going to do, only without redestroying everything. But I mean, technically, that's working just fine. I don't see why we just don't use that. It's a lot easier, right? Only makes sense. Okay, so if we do that, what's the other thing we need to do? We've updated the list. Oh, we need this poor little guy to actually do something, right? So if on the interaction we have left click, we get this value. We also need here to get I guess this guy here. We can do the same thing over here. We want to get the names of the starting item. I'm just going to finish that because I don't trust array list to be fast. So if the starting item is this, it's empty, and it should just go back. We don't need to deal with it if it's empty, right? Which is kind of what we're doing over here. If it's not equal, okay, then it has an item. And if it has an item, then we need to activate the fake item. Let's just get a variable drug over. We need to activate the fake item. And over here, I'm going to copy this. On the way back, we need to deactivate the fake item. And the fake item has children, right? Because it's the same thing as a slot. So it has a get child. We can use two of those. Of, I guess we don't even need to do that, do we? Well, I mean, we do still need those. Okay, so but our fake item here, it's a constant thing, so we can literally just do fake icon and fake quantity. So we need to get the slot, right? We need to, so we don't need children. All we need is, where are they? This guy. So we have names. Let's drag him over here. We don't care about the destination, but we do care about the icon and the quantity. Let's drag those and bring them over here so they're earlier. Move him to the bottom. And now UI text set text. So the fake quantity is going to be starting quantity. All right. Starting item. We don't need that twice. So, current slot ID, starting sprite. That's the other thing we want. So UI set sprite. So of big icon starting sprite. Move this down here. Okay. So we go and pick up something. Stupid thing. And if we drag the fake icon's turning on, and he's mimicking whatever we have, and that part's working. So the only other thing he needs is an FSM to get mouse X and Y not normalized, Y X set position, use 2D, set vector 2 XY, so every frame is position needs a X and it needs a Y, move that to the bottom, move this to the bottom. Okay, so we get the X and the Y, we set those, and we set this guy to position world every frame. So we get the mouse position, and we set position. And we don't worry about turning him on and off because he'll do that on his own, right? We have some sort of weird thing happening. Something happened. A wire is crossed somewhere. So we click and we move and we drop. And we drop. He's not dropping now. And that's because there is numerous ways for him to go back. And we never did that. So, yeah, we still have to deal with that stacking thing. That's alright, so let's just do this then. Let's finish. He can go back here. And he can take that. This will be kind of our main exit back. So everything that's going to go back can go through this thing. That way he'll turn off. Right, because now, oh, we do have an issue though. What is our issue? You know what I bet it is? That we never bothered doing is on the fake guy. If you turn off ray casting, you'll probably see this is going to make a big difference, right? Because now we can ray cast. Because if we weren't ray casting, we set his position all the way there, the thing underneath can't get the on enter. Now they can. Why is it not traveling over? Is something we're going to have to look into, right? Because if we are over 13, we're over 14. I click, it stores 14. It's not updating. So these guys here, let's turn off all these raycasts because that's probably what's killing us. Alright, so there we go. Now our number's updating. That's better. So make sure to turn those off, because if you don't, you can't raycast through things that won't allow it. Right? So make sure to turn off all these raycasts. This guy's a fake guy. He's there just for a visual thing, right? But that blocks this, right? In order to get that event, the mouse has to go over it, and if there's something in its way, it won't go through, which is why we got to turn off those raycast targeting on the images. Yeah, so there, like I said, now we have to move things around. So in the next video, we will work on what we would do for stacking, and if they are, like if I was to put these over, like it's gonna, right now they just, something screws up probably, so we need logic for that. And then after we get that, then we need it so we can click on these things, right? Because what if you want to, what if this was a box, you want to click on this and then put the box over here, right? Or if it's a, maybe it's a potion or a piece of meat you want to eat, or whatever the case may be. So we'll figure that out in the next one. Talk to you guys later.